In the previous tutorials, everything we've done has used the default settings of ICPro, but now we're going to start looking at how to customize the software to make it run the way you want it to. And we changed the default settings through these presets down here. And you can, if you want to, set different presets for each of the 6 pixets. But we're going to have a look at the presets under pixet 6 here. Now, as you can see, there are a number of options to consider on this page, but don't panic, we're going to go through them one at a time. We're going to start at the top here, and the first thing we'll look at is this button here, reset all values to default. Now, if you do get into a bit of a mess with these settings, you can always click here and everything will be put back to how it was at the beginning. Our first item is the load sort order. Now, this determines the running order of your images, and the default is a purely random order, default random. But if we click here, you can see there are other options. Author sort is also a random sort, but in addition it attempts to ensure that no 2 images from the same author follow each other. Alpha sort, well, that does what you'd expect it to do, and it puts all the images in an alphabetical order of the titles. And then we got club sort. Now, this gives us an ABC, ABC, etc. type order, and that's based on the author name part of the image file. Now, in older versions of ICPro, this was used for interclub competitions, where entries had an image file name which included the club name rather than the individual author's name. And doing this enabled us to show a total score at the end on the results table for each club. But in this version of the program, we have a specific interclub load facility accessed from a blue button on the setup screen. So although you can still use this option for club battles if you wish, I would recommend that you do go to the special facility on the setup screen. If you do use this option, you will find that the program checks that the same number of images are present for each author or each group of people. If not, it will just auto revert to the author sort option. Okay, now we have 2 manual options. So how do they work? Well, we're going to have to select one of them. We'll select manual 1. And we'll jump back to the setup screen. We'll apply this to pixet 6. We can also, if we wish, apply all the presets on this page to every pixet. But for now, we'll just apply this to pixet 6. Now, we've got just 3 images in pixet 6. And we're going to load them. Remember, we've set the preset here on manual load 1. The first thing we get is this alert saying that we're going to overwrite current data and scores, and you can see along the left hand side in yellow it does say it is currently loaded, but we'll say yes, we want to overwrite what's already there. And then we get this alert which just warns us we're going to create a manual running order. And again, I'll key Y for yes. And we then get this form up. Now I'm just going to run down here and you can see that on this form we can load up to 149 images. And it tells us at the top here we're in pixet 6 and we're using manual load 1. And what we do on here is browse for the entries in the order we want them displayed. And it tells us along here in red where to browse for the images into C, ICPro 18, pixet 6. And this means we do have to put the images into pixet 6 via the method we saw earlier, the shortcut files, before we go into this load process. So we'll browse. And we've got to find C, ICPro 18, pixet 6. So we go to my computer, C, ICPro 18, pixet 6, and there we got 3 images. I'm going to have the first one, Vigland montage. We'll open that. Okay, we've got to load the others. Click on the browse button. Here lies Jack second. Open that. Browse. Full by Bernie Wall will be third, and we'll open that. We've now loaded those 3 pictures in there, and we can just save the data and exit. And it takes us back to the setup screen. Now, unlike the auto load methods, we don't get a display order here, and that's simply because we've chosen the order while loading them. If you do want to save or print a display list, you'll have to just click load again, and then key V as it says on here. And there we are, that's our load order, and it's the form we've seen before where we can save and print it out. And I'll key R just to return to the setup screen. Okay, that's manual load 1. So let's go back to the presets, and we now have a look at manual load 2. Apply that to pixet 6. We'll click on the load button again. Once again, it's already loaded, so do we want to overwrite? Yes. Do we want to create a manual order? We sure? Yes. And we get this format. And now we can see we're pixet 6 manual load 2. And once again, it reminds us that we must browse here and select entries from pixet 6 folder. So once again, all the images must be in pixet 6 before we get to this process. Now this differs from the previous manual load because here we actually have to type in the image title and the author's name, as well as browse for the images as we did before. So why would we want to do this? Well, this gives us the option to load images into the program which do not have the strict ICPro file name format. You remember in an earlier tutorial when we talked about preparing pictures, we said how important it was to get the file format correct, and that was the title in capital letters followed by the word by followed by the author's name. But we don't need to do it if we're loading them this way. The file name can be anything you want. The image still needs to be a JPEG, and they still need to be put in the pixet folder before loading. Well, we'll browse again to the pixet 6 folder, and remember these now may have any file name that you wish. We'll just click that one, click open, and then we have to type in the title we want that one to show during the competition and the author's name that we want to show during the competition. So we browse in exactly the same way as we did on the last manual load, and we just have to fill in the titles and authors' names. And once again, when we finish, we just click the Save Data button and exit. Okay, let's get back into the presets, and this time we go into the presets for pixet 1. And the next item we look at is the Load Input via. Now you may remember we touched on this in our load tutorials. It offers 2 options. The default, which is pixet shortcut, which means we have to put all the pictures into the pixet folder before we can use the blue load button to process them. And the other option was the browse button, which means we can go direct to the load button and just browse for the images. We'll just leave that on pixet shortcut because we've seen this option before. And that's all on the loading options, and we'll move on to the pre-post screens. Now, like many things in ICPro, pre-post screens came about when some users suggested that 1, it would be nice to display the competition name and perhaps the judge's name before showing the images, and secondly, it was suggested that jumping straight to the results screen after scoring the last image was perhaps a little abrupt. And these screens are my answer to those comments. So how do they work? Well, as you can see, we can decide when we want to use them during the preview function, the comment function and or the judging function. My preference is just to use them during the judging only function. And let's go back to the setup screen and we'll have a look how they're going to work. Now you'll remember along the end of the current pixet status and options panel here, we had an add info column. And we click on that, and it's here that you can add a judge's name and competition name. And you remember we said before that if we do this, these names would appear on the display list saves and printouts, and they will also appear on the results table saves and printouts. but the other place we'll see them is on the pre-post screens. So let's type something in here, and we'll type a judge's name. Let's say Joe Blogs, and we'll also type a competition name and say it's called the Jubilee Cup. There we go, and we click continue. Now let's see these in action. So we come down to the bottom here to pick set 1 to start the competition. Click the 1 button, and we get this normal screen up. And I'm now going to key J for judging. And what happens now, instead of the first image coming up, we get this pre-screen. And up the top you've got the Jubilee Cup, the title of the competition, and under the logo you've got the judge's name. And it just tells you there, when you're ready to run the competition, key the space bar, and I'll do that. And up we get our first image. And I'm going to quickly run through and score these. There's 9 of them, I think. I'll just give them single figure scores just to get through them quickly. And I think that's the last one. And when we score that one, rather than jumping immediately to the results table, we get this post screen. There's no competition name or judge's name here, we just got the logo. But what it does do is give us a break before we go to the results screen. And we key spacebar when we're ready to see the results, and there they are. OK, R to reset, Y for yes. Back into the presets once again. And the next item we're going to look at is this preview mode set interval. Now you'll remember that on the control screen, when we get the P for preview, C for comment and J for judging, if we click the P key, we get a very quick run through of all the images. And each of them shows for about 2 seconds. But we have other options here. And we can show them for 4 seconds each, 6 seconds each, or 8 seconds. My preference is to make them pretty quick and leave it on 2 seconds. But of course you can do what you think is right for your club here. And the next item is the title bar. Now during the preview, comment and judging stages of the competition, you can have the title, but not the author's name, appear along the top of the screen. Now obviously, if the image fills the screen, this will mean that the top of the picture will be slightly hidden by the title bar. And to sort that out, we can tell the program how long we want that title bar to stay on the screen covering the image. And that's the on for options along this end here. So we can get the title bar come up with the image and stay on the screen for either 3 seconds, 6 seconds or full time, which means it will stay there the same amount of time as the image. Now I think 6 seconds is about the right amount. So we'll just put it on for judging once again. And we'll go back to the setup screen and run a competition again for pick set 1 and see how that works. Now we've got to get rid of the scores here first from the last one. So I'll click scores only, clear data. Yes. OK, we can now run that competition again. So I'll click on 1 and up comes this screen, our control screen. J for judging. We get our pre-screen and we get our first image, and you can now see that we've got a title along the top. And after 6 seconds, which is the setting we put in there, it disappears. And we can score that 7 points, move on to the next one, and once again the title comes up, will stay there for about 6 seconds and then drop away. Now I'm just going to key R to reset here and break out of this just to show you something else. R to reset again, and we go back to presets, and we just look at the next item here which says counter on during. Now in this case it's only available during the comment mode and the judging mode, and what it does is show a small counter in the top left of the screen, which is handy for judges, particularly when they're dealing with competitions with large numbers of pictures, and it allows them to keep track of how they're doing. So we'll turn that on for judging, and we'll apply that. And once again we'll go back to the Pixet 1 competition. J for judging, spacebar for the first image, and now you can see in the top left hand corner this says it's the first image of 9, and it will drop away with the title, and we'll score that one, 19, enter, and this is the second image of 9 and the title, which will drop away after 6 seconds. Okay, I'm sure we don't want to go through all of those, so we just click R again to reset, Y for yes, R again, and we're back on the setup screen. And we'll continue with the presets in the next tutorial.